Worker gets hand, caught in machinery. Investigation finds worker placed hand in danger zone while machine was operating. Recommendation: remind workers not to place hands in danger zones. Investigation closed. Nothing changes. 3 months later, different worker, same machine, same injury. Why? Because the investigation found what was nearest to the injury, not what caused it. I am Dr. Wayne M. Sunborg. Today I'm going to show you how to trace causation backwards, past the obvious, past the convenient, to where the real answers lie. Our brains are wired to fix on what's immediately visible. In a survival context, that's useful. In accident investigation, it's a liability. The proximity trap works like this. The closer something is to the injury, in time or in space, the more likely we are to call it the cause. Worker's hand was in the danger zone. Machine was running. God was missing. We see these things first, so they become our explanation. But proximity is not causation. The worker's hand in the danger zone is the final event in a chain, not the origin of it. Why was the guard missing? Why could the machine operate without it? Why was the worker's hand there at all? What were they actually trying to achieve? Those questions lead to causes. What you saw first leads only to blame. You know the 5 whys. Keep asking why until you reach a systemic cause. Simple in theory, routinely misapplied in practice. The error is asking why in the wrong direction. Why did the worker put their hand in the machine? Leads you straight to the worker. Why was it possible to operate the machine without the guard in place? Leads you to the system. Here's the same incident done properly. Why was the guard missing? Removed for maintenance on the previous shift. Why wasn't it replaced? The technician was pulled to an urgent job before completing the task. Why wasn't the machine locked out? No procedure requires lockout for incomplete maintenance, only for active maintenance work. Why not? The risk assessment never considered interrupted maintenance as a scenario. Why not? Risk assessments are written by operations staff who don't observe how maintenance actually functions. 5 questions. We've moved from missing guard to disconnect between risk assessment and operational reality. That's a systemic finding. That's something you can fix. The 5 whys is a starting point. Complex incidents need more structure, and that's where causal chain mapping becomes essential. Start with the injury. Work backwards. For each event in the chain, identify what had to be true for that event to occur. Then ask, what allowed that condition to exist? You'll quickly find that causes branch. The guard was missing, and the machine was operable without it, and the worker's hand was in the zone. And there was no warning system. Each branch has its own causal history. Map all of them. Don't stop the moment a branch reaches human error. Keep going until every branch terminates at either a systemic control failure or a factor genuinely outside the organization's control. It looks messy on paper, but it forces systematic thinking, and it surfaces connections you'd never see if you'd stopped at the obvious. Here's what transforms investigations. The most significant causes are almost always organizational, not technical. Technical causes, guard missing, alarm failed, equipment fault, are real, but they're rarely root causes. They're symptoms. Organizational factors are what allowed those symptoms to develop. Inadequate procedures, insufficient training, poor supervision, production pressure overriding safety, failure to learn from previous incidents. When you find a technical failure, the question to ask is, what organizational factor allowed this to exist or persist? The guard was missing because there's no system to verify guard status at shift start. Why not? Supervision focuses on production output, not safety verification. Why? Supervisory KPIs don't include safety compliance. Why? Because management treats safety as common sense, something that doesn't need measurement. Now you have a cause you can actually address. That's the difference between an investigation and an exercise. Here's a test I apply in every investigation. Imagine the injured worker was someone else. Same training, same experience, same instructions, same conditions. Would the incident still have occurred? If the answer is yes, and it usually is, then the cause isn't the individual. The cause is the system that placed any worker in that situation. This isn't about removing individual accountability. It's about recognizing that organizations create conditions and conditions shape behavior. When I present findings to management, I frame it this way. Your next new hire, following the same procedures, with the same training, under the same supervision, would likely make the same decisions. What needs to change so that doesn't happen? That moves the conversation from blame to prevention. And prevention is the entire point of the work. Before you finalize your findings, run them through these 5 tests. First, if you address this cause, will it prevent recurrence? If you're not confident, you haven't found a root cause. Second, is this cause within the organization's control? If not, identify what the organization could have done to mitigate it. Third, is this cause specific and actionable? Improve safety culture is not actionable. Implement a pre-shift guard verification checklist with supervisor sign-off is. Fourth, does the evidence support this finding? Every causal conclusion must trace back to documented evidence. If it doesn't, it's speculation, and speculation isn't investigation. Fifth, have you stopped too soon? If your root cause is a human action, ask one more why. There's almost always a system behind the behavior. The incident in front of you is never the whole story. It's the final frame of a much longer film. Your job is to trace backwards through that film, past the obvious, past the comfortable, until you reach the systemic failures that made it possible. That takes discipline, persistence, a willingness to ask uncomfortable questions and follow the answers wherever they lead. Stop where it's easy, and you'll be back investigating the same scenario in a different name. Keep going until it's systemic, and you might actually change something. Well, that's all for this session. I will be back soon with the final video in this series. I do hope that you have taken away these important facts and implement them in your next case. Thank you, and goodbye for now.